Hello everyone, I'm Bill Hammond and I actually paid to see this, and welcome to the 2023 Oscar Blitz, where I break down every nominee in every category for the 95th Academy Awards. Be sure to subscribe, both here and on my blog, actuallypaid.com, to keep up with this year's marathon. Today's category is production design, which focuses on the overall look of a film, particularly when it comes to the sets and locations. How well is the space being used? Are props and decorations effective at conveying a message or mood? Is it all pleasing to the eye? That's what we're here to discuss, so let's get started. All Quiet on the Western Front. Production design by Christian M. Goldbeck, set decoration by Ernestine Hipper. Well, it's a war movie, so you need battlefields, and the design is effective here. It's World War I, there's trench warfare, and there are trenches. I never doubted for a second that we were in the trenches, so good job, I guess. Apart from that, though, there's not all that much to go on. The diversions to the armistice negotiations largely take place in generic castle sets, so there's not much to dissect there. I'll admit I was intrigued a little bit by the scenes in the train car during the final talks, but that's more of a directing and blocking achievement than anything else. The production design element ends at the fact that the car is fairly cramped. Beyond that, what are we honestly supposed to be blown away by to potentially give this an Oscar? It's just a war movie that looks like a war movie. Well done for not fucking it up, I guess, but nothing here is truly superlative. Avatar: The Way of Water. Production design by Dylan Cole and Ben Proctor, set decoration by Vanessa Cole. This is one of those cases where I really wish I could attend one of the Academy's bake-offs, where specialty categories get to show off how they accomplish whatever feats they feel deserve consideration. Because the biggest question on my mind is, what exactly did Vanessa Cole do? This is a 100% digital CGI film. There are no sets to decorate. Did she physically place the CGI hammocks onto the computer? What was her job? I genuinely want to know. Because otherwise, this feels like an incomplete entry. Don't get me wrong, the actual design of this new area of Pandora is gorgeous. The integration of sea life is genius, and the Na'vi look even more surprisingly realistic, except for the bad guys who look like they're only half rendered. The only real design flaw for me is the climax that just recreates Titanic with blue jungle kitty cats. But really, what am I supposed to do? Half the nomination makes absolutely no sense to me. And even if there is some super technical way in which there were sets for her to decorate, we as a general audience don't know what that is, so this doesn't pass the smell test for me. Babylon. Production design by Florencia Martin, set decoration by Anthony Carlino. Even though this movie is inexplicably over 3 hours long, there are really only two things that merit a highlight. One is the opening orgy at producer Don Wallach's house. Regardless of your opinion of the film's overall quality, hint from me, not much, you can't deny that this set piece is huge and lively. The second is the sequence that immediately follows, where our leads spend a day on a panoramic hillside set where several movies are being filmed at once. You have Brad Pitt waiting to film his one scene against the backdrop of a huge battle. On the other side, you have multiple stages set up in a basic circle shape where multiple productions film simultaneously. This is the one area of Damien Chazelle's film that approaches the movie magic it professes to love in the midst of all the elephant feces, and the attention to detail is a huge part of the movie's only positive experience. Elvis. Production design by Catherine Martin and Karen Murphy, set decoration by Bev Dunn. I have to admit, I really don't have much to say here. I am fairly confident that all involved in the design and decoration did a competent job, maybe even an exemplary one. I just don't remember any of it because of Baz Luhrmann's hyperactive editing and storytelling style, where we never really stick around in one location long enough for anything to leave an impression. There are concert stages that are largely Spartan apart from some lighting effects in order to keep the focus on Austin Butler until we get to the Las Vegas residency. There's the scene on the Ferris wheel, which was creative, but the impact is lost because of the horrible makeup job on Tom Hanks. Even Graceland feels like it doesn't get proper attention because we keep jumping to the next shiny object in transition. This is another instance where I wish I could see the bake-off presentation, because the format at least allows for the viewer to understand the effort that went into all these things that barely flashed on the screen during the final cut of the film. The Fabelmans. Production design by Rick Carter, set decoration by Karen O'Hara. The success of the design elements here largely comes down to a sense of reality and the burgeoning love of cinema for Steven Spielberg's Avatar in Sammy Fabelman. On the one hand, the individual sets feel completely natural within the context of the various time periods, whether it's an interior like the family's various homes throughout the story, or an exterior location like the camping trip, or the scene where Sam says his goodbyes to Seth Rogen's Benny. On the other side, there are the elaborate constructions that Sam creates for his filmmaking experience, from recreating the train crash from The Greatest Show on Earth in his basement, to planning out a large-scale sequence where a battle scene leads to a sole survivor walking through the aftermath, filmed on a tracking dolly made from scratch. All of that is spectacular, but the biggest achievement to me is one of the most subtle. In several scenes, the family has dinner on paper plates and thin plastic tablecloths, with the cleanup being a simple exercise of balling the entire spread up into the cloth and throwing it out. It's a tremendous piece of decoration and prop work, delivering the absolutely brilliant visual metaphor that everything going on in this family is predicated on something inherently flimsy and disposable. It's the most genius touch in the entire movie for me. Now, before I reveal my personal rankings in the category, I have to say that I was honestly surprised by this slate of nominees. Mostly because there were several wonderful bits of design that didn't make the final cut. So with that in mind, here's a quick rundown of some honorable mentions that I feel are truly the best examples of production design that somehow weren't nominated. The menu takes place primarily in a perfectly constructed living set. Every square inch of Hawthorne is as meticulously planned as Ray Fiennes' diabolical scheme, filled with hidden secrets and all the elements needed for both destruction and salvation. The ease with which the story flows because of the core utility of the set design would have easily gotten my vote had it been nominated. I honestly really didn't like Mexico's Submission, Bardo, False Chronicles of a Handful of Truths all that much. I found it needlessly vague and incredibly pretentious at points. But the three elements that really worked were the cinematography, editing, and production design. The film did get nominated for the camera work, but not the other two, and really all three elements work in tandem to sell the stream of consciousness in this story. The ability to seamlessly transition from television sets to open deserts to a half-built house was incredible to behold, and it only works with the larger-than-life set designs that feel like a waking dream that can change on a dime. Empire of Light was a bit too schmaltzy for my taste, but one of the things I really enjoyed was the Empire cinema itself. Not only was it a fun throwback to classic movie houses, but the disused second theater where Olivia Colman and Michael Ward have their affair was one of the film's best decisions. One, it's just economical because you can essentially film scenes on the old set that looks like it's either still being built or being torn down, then do the rest of the scenes in the complete set of the main house. But more importantly, it perfectly serves the main theme of the movie about what happens to people and things that don't get proper care and respect. It's an expert-level representation of the metaphor. The fact that Glass Onion is, like its predecessor, relegated to a token nomination for the screenplay is one of the more insulting snubs of this year's field. As a central location, the titular mansion on an isolated Greek island is the perfect setting for this type of story. It's wonderfully appointed with all the red herrings, Chekhov's guns, and MacGuffins you could ask for. The inherent flaws highlight the ironic genius stupidity of the overall plot. The fact that it is as wholly transparent as the underlying scheme ties in with the silly atmosphere about as perfectly as you can imagine. It's such a gorgeously interactive setting, one that feels truly alive, which is just fantastic for a murder mystery. So after all that, here are my rankings for the field. If I somehow had a vote at the Academy, this is how my ballot would look. In 5th place is Avatar: The Way of Water. Like I said, it feels like an incomplete entry. In 4th is Elvis. 3rd goes to All Quiet on the Western Front. 2nd to Babylon. And my imaginary vote goes to The Fabelmans, which, given that little mini montage we just went through, should let you know that it's honestly the only entry in this year's class that I feel was worthy of its nomination. Oh well, can't win them all. That does it for this category, but don't worry, there's so much more to come. Keep it locked on the blog, actuallypaid.com, for continuing coverage throughout the Blitz, and don't forget to vote in my online poll and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Until next time, I'm Bill Hammond, and I actually paid to see this.